Welcome to another Joy Connection. I am so excited to be able to talk to my friend, but he's not just my friend. He's a good counselor and therapist. Together one counseling services. This is Kevin Joel Copeland, and I have known Kevin for years, for years. But
it's going to give away how old we are.
I know, right? Like it's okay though. And I am just so glad because Kevin has done so many things in his life, and what is really dear to his heart is helping people cultivate, work in healthy relationships and marriages. And so I'm glad today to be having our Joy Connection conversation be about how do you cultivate joy in your relationships? Those of you that have been listening and being part of the conversations that we've had, you know that one of my favorite verses is the joy of the Lord is your strength, Nehemiah 8, verse 10. But so many times we think about that in just hard times, or we think about that as being just our own walk. But the Lord wants us to have joy in our relationships as well, and especially the relationship of marriage. And you know, the joy of the Lord will be your strength in your marriage. And so we're here to talk about how do we cultivate joy in our marriage so that we can have a strong marriage and have strength in our marriage. And so I have invited Kevin Joel to come and share some tips and some strategies and just his ideas and thoughts and what he's been trained in, but also what he's learned as he's worked with couples and helping them just be stronger. So welcome, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to ask you, can you share with our viewers, with our listeners, what are some things that will help to cultivate joy in the marriage relationship? That relationship that shouldn't be a strain, it shouldn't be so hard and complicated, but should be really fun and fulfilling and filled with joy. Take it away. Take it away.
Thanks for inviting me. This is lots of fun. I'm glad that I can be a part of your show. And thank you for singing at the wedding. So yes, you've been around a long time. I've been married to Natasha for almost 25 years.
Unbelievable. This March, is it this March?
It is this March. It's going to be 25 years. And
I've known you longer. So I sang at the wedding, but we were like a brother and sister longer than that.
That's true. It's been a long time, a lot of great years. And to answer your question, I think it's a very important question, Shireen, about joy. I think first and foremost, it starts as a mindset of what you choose to focus on. And I think that the couples that I notice that succeed are ones that are able to focus on positive things and celebrate the wins, celebrate the successes. And when difficult things do come, and I'm sure from your own personal experience, you can attest to this, that there will be difficult times, then what is your mental approach to those difficulties? You said an interesting word, should. And when we use the word should, it's almost like we have this expectation of things should be a certain way.
Right.
And when we do have this expectation that things should be a certain way, what happens when they don't go that way?
Yes.
And so I try to help couples first to I'll joke and say, don't should all over yourself.
Don't should all over yourself.
Don't should all over yourself, because when you have this expectation that things should be a certain way and they aren't, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
So first, don't try to eliminate those expectations that things have to be a certain way.
Right.
And with a lot of couples, I go through what we would call family of origin work, and we look at what were our parents' relationships like, or what were those relationships like as a child, because that creates this invisible template that forms in our own mind as we grow into adulthood what we think relationships should be. So if they don't match up with that standard or that template, then perhaps we can get frustrated and disappointed, anxious, angry, and act out or lash out if the present doesn't meet up with what we think should be the situation.
So
So first of all, yeah, be realistic about what your expectations are.
I think Kevin, that leads me to a question because, yes, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You don't want to come in with expectations that then lead you to disappointment. However,
Yeah.
are there some shoulds that are okay? Because you did say that there is a mindset. So, in terms of wanting joy in your marriage or success in your marriage, aren't there some shoulds that in terms of the mindset? Like, yes, you don't want to have that should of that expectation of perfection, but don't you want to have a should of, we'll always leave room for forgiveness or for trying or for understanding that when my expectations aren't what I thought they were, that this mindset, if I have this mindset, then I can work on and improve and we can have bounce back ability or get out of. So aren't there some shoulds that actually help to cultivate joy, that will actually help couples get past the stuck of that the negative shoulds, but move them into the okay, this is how these are good mindsets, good
Expectations.
Yeah, aren't not all shoulds are bad.
Yeah, expectations are not bad, but I think they need to be agreed upon.
Okay.
And that's the difference. If you go into a relationship and you haven't been able to articulate what those expectations are, then there's probably not necessarily an agreement about it.
Okay.
And I can attest, in my marriage, I had a lot of expectations of Natasha that I didn't even realize I had until the moment that that situation arose. And I didn't necessarily have the awareness to go, oh, why am I upset or annoyed or hurt or bothered in this moment? Well, it was because I wasn't getting my needs, my expectations met in the way that I thought they should be. So I had to do the work of realizing, maybe I haven't articulated well enough or explained well enough what those hopes and expectations are, so that we can talk about it. And she didn't, and likewise for her as well too, to be able to share with me what her hopes and expectations, that I wasn't going to leave dishes in the sink before I go to bed. That was an expectation that she had.
I love her.
To learn. I needed to learn.
I'm working with that still now.
Yes,
years later.
and you can relate. And so it's not bad to have expectations, but if you don't articulate them, then that is a problem.
Have you found that there are some joy givers, joy infusers, developers, that no matter how different you are and how different your relationship, your marriage relationship is, that for any relationship, these are things that will infuse life and I don't want to say happiness, because like you talked about, we work through our frustrations and our disappointments, and they come because of our family of origin or any of those things, and feelings come and go. But the idea of, okay, this infuses joy, which gives your marriage strength to work through the good, the bad, the up, down, the ugly. Are there some things that no matter how different the relationships are that you've been counseling, helping, supporting, that there are certain things that you tend to teach people all the time, because you're like, this is going to give your marriage strength. This is going to give your marriage hope. This is going to help you actually enjoy being married.
Yeah. And I think that as John Gottman talks about, he's a great author, marriage author. He talks about a culture of appreciation. And I think, number one, you have to be able to focus on what you appreciate about the other person.
Yeah.
when we have just to give a little theory, okay, and this whole idea of attachment theory, we desire in relationships connection and protection.
Yeah.
And when we have connection and when we feel safe with that person,
Mhm.
usually the relationship feels really good.
Right.
And we feel like we can be ourselves and we can live a very joyful life.
Mm.
But when we don't get our desire for connection met or our desire for protection met, it's going to rob us of our joy. And
Right.
what we're going to do most likely is retreat and pull back and take a stance of defensiveness to
Oh,
protect ourselves from getting further hurt.
right.
And the double-edged sword of that is when we protect ourselves, we tend to focus more on the negative than on the positive,
And the negative
because
of,
that's a
of
way
our
to
partner.
protect ourselves.
The negative
Yeah,
of our partner.
the negative of our partner.
Okay.
So it's a very natural response to then when we feel unsatisfied or hurt to begin to focus more on the things that the other person is not doing rather than the things that they are doing. And that makes us feel safer, but it also makes us feel more or less connected.
So it's not really giving us what it is that we want, because
Exactly.
that need for connection and protection, what you're saying is, if our need of security is threatened, then
Yes.
we focus on the negative, then that sends us into this cycle that actually is taking away from us what it
A
is that we
lot.
wanted in the first place. And so
Absolutely. It's
you're
very
saying
counterproductive.
it's counterproductive. And so you're saying, if we have this mindset of gratitude for what our partner is doing, gratitude for who our partner is, gratitude for what our partner brings to our
Yeah,
relationship,
exactly.
then if we're focused on that, then
Yeah.
we're also building our connection and we're building our protection, which means we're building our security in our
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm,
The
that's good.
flip side, yeah, the flip side of that would be people would often say, well, I don't want to be an ostrich and stick my head in the sand and ignore the bad stuff.
Right.
I am not saying don't try to be proactive to repair or fix or tweak your relationship to make it better. But
Hmm.
I'm saying when we focus on the negative to the exclusion of focusing on the positive, then we're robbing ourselves of joy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
joy comes in the little things that we choose to focus on and appreciate.
So, what are some of those little things that we should focus on that actually infuse joy and that will feed our gratitude? So, yes, gratitude is a practice that we
Yeah, it's a
should put
practice.
into our relationships and really be giving thanks for what we have and what we're doing. But what are some things that the little things that are important for couples to go, let's do this? I mean, I even heard you talk about the whole idea of, no, don't stick your head in the sand. So communication, I'm hearing you say, you know what, communication is important. Maybe communicating with gratitude, right? Like, let's
Yeah,
put those two things together:
right.
communicate your gratitude and
Yeah.
communicate with gratitude. But what are some things that people think are little that are actually really big things for marriages that maybe people have missed, and they need to learn to, that those little things are not so little, but they're
Yeah,
actually
there's
quite important.
yeah, they say that people sometimes when they avoid, they sweep under the rug, okay? And the problem is when we sweep it under the rug, we ignore it for a time and then it gets so big that we end up blowing up. Well, I think in the opposite side too, when we focus on the positive things over and over again, it reinforces for us how it changes our mind. It
Right.
changes how we think about the other person, which means it changes our tone. It
Oh,
changes how we um, think about the other person, how we speak to the other person, that the words that we say. But then it also does something positive to the receiver, the recipient as well, too. So when I say, Shireen, that's that's a really nice shirt that you're wearing, and it goes well with your skin color, and great lipstick. All of a sudden your defense mechanism is going to go down, and you are going to be much more open and to receive the positive, and you're going to then give me the benefit of the doubt,
Right.
because it's going to become this reciprocal thing that we talk about oftentimes in relationships. You can have a negative feedback loop, or you can have a positive feedback loop, and we want to have a positive feedback loop. So when I think about you and I express my love and my affection to you, then you feel connected and protected, and then you express the same thing back to me, and it feeds a positive feedback loop.
And I think that, again, that's not ignoring when you have to face challenges, but that whole idea of not being defensive, and that whole idea of being able to receive. So if you
Yeah.
cultivated a relationship in which people know that you're going to be honest, I've seen you post even about that whole idea of, since when is honesty brutal, right? Not brutally honest, but
Yeah.
you have been so kind, and you've been accepting, and you've been forgiving, and you've been whatever it is. And the loop is a positive loop. Then I can come to you in a challenging time, and you're going to be more open and not defensive, because I trust that we're going to be able to express ourselves in a way that respects each other.
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of saying? That,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sense so how
And
can people be people that are approachable to their partner, so that
right.
their partner, good or bad, is able to say, I can talk to you, I
Yeah.
can.
That's excellent point. I work when we talk about this in session a
Mhm.
lot. I give them 3 words:
Okay.
attend, don't defend.
Okay.
Attend, don't defend. Remind yourself that if I attend to my partner rather than defend my position,
Oh,
my partner is going to feel more connected and more protected and safer to really be open and honest and loving to me.
right.
And I'm going to receive it very differently than if I enter into this conversation in a defensive stance, because all that's going to come out of it is negative energy if I'm in a defensive stance,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're going to be frustrated with me that you can't get through to my thick skull, that you've got an issue that you want to deal with. So
Right.
you're going to turn up the volume, you're going to turn up the cadence, and I'm going to be like, Shireen, why are you yelling at me? Stop yelling at me. But you're really not yelling as much as you're frustrated and you want to get through to me, but I'm too busy defending myself rather than attending to what you want. So that's a joy buster right there.
Right.
Defensiveness is a total joy buster.
Yes. I find that, I guess, people spend a whole lot of time thinking they know how to listen, and really they're not listening to
We're
understand.
horrible at it.
Right. They're listening
Horrible.
to have the next comment, to have the next answer. And so
Yeah.
I love that. I love the attend, don't defend, because if you're attending, you may get to this point where there's nothing for you to defend. Your heart has been softened, or your heart has been wrong. Or even if you're attending, then you understand clearly why it is you need to defend a position. But you're able to be in that place where you've allowed that person to know, I heard you, I understand you, and then you communicate differently, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The whole priority is very different when you take on the attend, don't defend stance, because
Yeah.
you're prioritizing, my job, number one job is to make sure that you feel heard, rather than my number one priority or job is to make sure that I get heard or I get validated.
And don't you think, I mean, I would say that this whole idea of attend and not defend, and the whole idea of, yes, it's so that the other person gets heard, but it actually gives us both. So then we're actually both heard if we deal with it that way.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure you've been sitting in sessions and you get people to practice that right in front of you. And by the time you're done, because both have decided, I'm going to attend, I'm going to be present, I'm going to be right here listening to the other person's voice, then what happens is that both people get heard, I would think.
Yeah, yeah,
That,
yeah. There is that law, I believe, of reciprocation. So I don't know if you've ever gone through the Tim Hortons drive-through and somebody in front of you decided to pay for your coffee
right.
or something like that, do something nice for you. All of a sudden, now you have this desire to, well, somebody's been kind to me,
Yeah.
somebody has been thoughtful to me, somebody has met my needs. I now have this desire to do the same for this complete stranger behind me. And
Yes.
that perhaps it's a rough analogy, but I think that that takes place in relationships as well.
Right.
When our desire, when our needs get met, then we want to meet the needs of other people.
It's true.
So if you make that decision, well, I'm just going to do this for you. I'm going to sacrificially, even though I really don't feel like it in this moment, sacrificially, I'm going to attend to your needs.
Mm.
Most of the time, unless you're married to a complete sociopath, and that can happen, but that's a topic for another day. You know, that person is going to then feel more connected to you and want to meet your needs, and the joy is going to increase.
What would you say to people who are in a challenging time right now
Yeah,
and they don't think, there is absolutely no way that they can have joy in their relationship? What are some practical little steps, baby steps that walk people closer to a place of joy and fulfillment in their relationship, that people go, it can't happen, and you encourage them, okay, if you just practice this daily or practice this weekly or practice this, you'll see by the time you look back you've actually made some steps. What are some of those things that you would
yeah,
say?
yeah. Okay. So there's a few things there. I think baby steps. We don't have I love my analogies and metaphors, so I'll throw another one at you.
Go for
And
it.
it's a baseball one, and I don't even I'm not even a baseball guy, but it's great. You can win a lot of games by hitting singles and doubles. You
Ah,
don't have to hit home runs and grand slams all the time in order to win the game. Okay. So what I mean by that is it's the little things that you choose to do on the daily
mhm,
and noticing the little things
mhm.
that can add to your joy.
Right.
And yes, this is a very difficult time in our history. I'm not going to take that away. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard,
Yeah.
and it's been a very difficult 2 years, especially due to COVID.
And on
So
relationships, it's been really hard. I'm sure
it's
you've
been,
gone through
yeah, it's been
a
a meat
lot of,
grinder. It's been a real meat grinder for in a lot of relationships.
yeah, yeah,
So we have to be creative, get creative, because we can't do things the way we used to do them. No, you can't go out to a restaurant and have dinner the way you used to be able to do, or go to the movie theater. And yeah, those things are not as possible as they once were. But that doesn't mean we're locked up and we can't do anything.
right.
You can do a picnic on in the living room floor if you really want to.
Yep.
um Maybe that's possible, maybe it's not, I don't know, but you can get creative and you can do little things, and then coming back to, I can appreciate and notice the little things.
Yeah.
And maybe it's even at the end of the night before you go to bed, you pull out your journal and you identify a few things that you're thankful for
Right.
and you appreciate it and you say it out loud. There's power in the pen and there's power in the tongue.
Yeah.
If you just do it in your mind and keep it in your mind, it's not nearly as powerful as if you say it out loud or as if you write it down.
It's true. Wow. And I love that. I love that idea of write it down for your own self so that you go back and read it over and remember at those times that you're not feeling so appreciative. Oh yeah, I did appreciate this. But I also love the fact that you're like, write it down and say it, like tell your partner, because then the brain is actually listening as well, right? And so the idea of there's power in the pen and power in the tongue, I think that that is so important. And I love the idea of getting creative. And that just comes back to what you said in terms of it's a whole mindset thing, right? So we can look at things that are not happening, or we can look at things that are happening or that can happen. I mean, I even remember watching your post of you having a visit outside, and most people will go, oh my gosh, I'm not wearing the blanket. I'm not going to sit by the fire. I'm not going to. Okay, well, you could have no visit at all, right? So the whole idea of what can we do with this time that's challenging, that's difficult. Like I know when I'm talking with couples, I usually say to them that this moment, this time we're in, it will pass. So where do you want to be? Who do you want to be as a couple when this is over? You know, so if you focus on the target of who you want to continue being as a couple, when you focus on the target of when all of this is said and done and it's behind us, who are we, right? So I love that idea of being creative, keep doing something. I love that idea of writing things down for yourself and also saying it for your partner. I love the idea of gratitude being so important. Kevin Joel has shared so many things, nuggets, the idea of win a game with singles. Oh my gosh, and doubles, right? Like that's a great analogy. So this has been a great conversation. We have had a lot of just nuggets that I really do think will help those that are married in a good marriage because you want to make it better, those that are in a struggle right now, those that are engaged, those that are hoping to be married. These are still all things that we all need to know, and they help our relationships, married or not, right? So Kevin Joel has shared a lot of things, and Kevin, I would like to just ask you if there's anything else that we haven't been able to cover that you would like to leave with our listeners, but also tell them where they can find you, because if you're needing help, if you're needing support, if you're needing somebody to walk alongside you, Kevin Joel is available, and he's good at what he does. So please tell them where it is that they can find you and how it is that people can reach out to you if they need to.
Okay. Well, on Facebook, if you look up Together One, and that's TWO, Together One, that's kind of birthed out of the concept, the scriptural concept of the two shall become one. So I have Together One, which is a social media group for all couples that want, I just post stuff in there that to help couples in any way. And then
great studies. He mentioned the Gottman. He posts a lot of stuff on there, just stuff for you to read and access. It's great.
Yeah, and quizzes and inventories and a whole bunch of stuff, videos and jokes, sometimes some funny jokes, and so we can laugh at ourselves. To find me on the web, World Wide Web, you can just Google Kevin Joel Copeland, RP, registered psychotherapist, and you'll find me there. And I have a story. I have a quick story to wrap up. Okay, it's one of my favorite stories. I tell it with all of my clients. So it's about this wise old man and these two teenage boys, and they wanted to trick the wise old man. So they were thinking, how are we going to fool him? So they caught a bird, and they put the bird in their hand, and they went to the wise man and they said, "Sir, we have a riddle for you, or a question for you. We have a bird in our hand. Is the bird alive or is it dead?" And they thought they would be able to trick him, because if the wise old man said that the bird was alive, they would squeeze the bird and show him the dead bird. And if they said that the bird was dead, that they would open up their hand and let the bird fly free. So they had the bird in their hand, and they said, "Well, is the bird alive or is it dead?" And he stood there for a moment quiet, and they asked him again, "Well, is it alive or is it dead?" And he looked at them and he said, "It is as you will it to be."
Wow.
And so I think about our marriage and the choices that we have. Our marriage is as we will it to be. So when we make wise choices to make it better, we make it better. But if we will it and we make choices to make it worse, it will be worse. So it is as you will it to be.
Oh, thank you for that story. It's a great way to end. And I will be praying that you will all will it to be a marriage of joy and a marriage of life that you keep feeding with gratitude. And so, Kevin, thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you for sharing with us. And we will see all of you back here for another Joy Connection next week. Thanks again. God bless you.